Welcome back. Republican candidates for president were quick to condemn the attack on Israel and to blame President Biden.
The Israeli attack was made because we are perceived as being weak and ineffective and with a really weak leader.
The Iranians are funding Hamas and Hezbollah and all these groups, and they're funding it in part with money that they've gotten because of the Biden administration's weak policies.
This is what happens when you have a president like Joe Biden. I also believe this is what happens when you have leaders in the Republican Party that are signaling retreat on the world stage.
Joining me now is Mr. Trump's former United Nations ambassador, Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley. Ambassador Haley, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thanks so much, Kristen.
Well, I want to start off, Ambassador, by getting your reaction to the horrific events that unfolded in Israel yesterday. To what extent do you see this as a major intelligence failure?
Well, I think that there will be a time and place to deal with whether it was an intelligence failure. I think right now what I want the American people to know is just imagine the Israeli people woke up to seeing their own citizens dragged in the streets, the elderly, children, women taken as hostages, whole families murdered. And so now today the Israeli people and the country are having to face the fact that their loved ones are being deployed, that they are having to go to the front lines to defend their country, that businesses are having to be shuttered because their workers are leaving to go defend the country, and because they've had a massive terrorist attack. And so I think that prayers for determination and strength for the Israeli people. But what I want the American people to know is what happened when they were dragging those people in the streets? What happened when they were murdering innocent Israelis? The Hamas and the backers who support them, the Iranian regime, were chanting, "Death to Israel, death to America." That's what we have to remember. We are united with Israel because we are united because both Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and the Iranian backers, they hate us. And we have to remember that what happened to Israel could happen here in America. And I hope that we all unite and stand with Israel because they really need us right now.
Quick follow-up there, Ambassador. Does that mean that you are concerned about potential attacks on the home front in the wake of what we saw in Israel?
I have been concerned. I have been terribly worried about the fact that Iran has said the easiest way to get into America is through the southern border. We have an open border. People are coming through. They're not being vetted. We don't need to wait for another 9/11. You also look at the fact that, Kristen, America is incredibly distracted and incredibly divided. And when America's distracted, the world is less safe. And look at what happened to Israel. They waited for them to be distracted. And that's when your enemies move in. America needs to wake up. We need to put this negativity and division behind us. And we need to focus on national security for ourselves and for our friends and start thinking about what it's going to take to get America strong again.
I want to drill down with you on some of those divisions. Yesterday, almost all of your Republican rivals blamed the Biden administration for this attack, as I just discussed with the secretary, citing the deal they made with Iran. You just saw the Secretary of State effectively say there is no link between that deal and the horrific attacks that unfolded yesterday. Do you think it was irresponsible of your rivals to level that allegation without any evidence or proof?
I actually think it was irresponsible for Secretary Blinken to say that the $6 billion doesn't weigh in here. I mean, let's be honest with the American people and understand that Hamas knows and Iran knows they're moving money around as we speak because they know $6 billion is going to be released. That's the reality. When I was at the United Nations, you saw that when those planes full of cash sent by Obama to Iran, I went to the International Atomic Energy Agency. I met with them. What happened was those funds were sent to Hezbollah in Lebanon. They were sent to Hamas in Gaza. They were sent to the Houthis in Yemen. They go and spread terrorism every time they get a dollar. It doesn't go to the Iranian people. It does go to terrorist attacks. And Secretary Blinken's just wrong to imply that this money is not being moved around as we speak
and yet,
to
Ambassador,
hurt those that love freedom.
And yet, Ambassador, there's just no proof of that yet. This is just the hours after that immediate attack. Is it irresponsible to level that charge when you really don't have any evidence of that at this point in time?
The evidence is, look at what the Iranian people have done to freedom-loving people around the world. Look at what the Iranian people, the Iranian regime has done to threaten Israel over the years. To think that they're not moving money around is irresponsible to say that to the American people. They are moving money around to threaten those they hate. They hate Israel. They hate America. They are going to continue to use this. It was wrong to release the $6 billion, but let me tell you what else was wrong. It was wrong to go and have that debacle in Afghanistan. It was wrong to waive sanctions on Iran that gave them even more money. Money has been flowing to Iran, and that is the problem, because when Iran gets money, they use it for hate.
And Ambassador Haley, just to be clear again, the Secretary of State said categorically they have not seen a link. Let me move on, though, to your record on Israel. Under the Trump administration, the U.S. Embassy moved to Jerusalem. As you know, that enraged many Palestinians. Settlements expanded in violation of international law, and there was no progress made toward a two-state solution. You were UN ambassador at the time. Could you and should you have done more to address the interests of the Palestinian people?
Well, I actually went to the West Bank. I actually met with the Palestinians multiple times. I actually went and saw what the situation was at hand. But let me tell you what else I saw. I saw tunnels underneath Israel, underneath schools. What they would do in those tunnels is they would store arms, they would store ammunition, they would store things so that they could go and take that ammunition to hurt people across the border. They put these tunnels underneath schools because they knew that Israelis valued life. They knew that Israelis would not go and hurt innocent people. That's what we're dealing with. So I've been in those tunnels. I've seen what has happened. I've seen the graffiti all over those buildings that have tried to say that they want to kill as many Israelis
but Ambassador,
and Jews as they can.
Did you bear responsibility to do more to try to move toward a two-state solution while you had the chance to do so?
I called out the truth. I called out the truth that what was happening was that you had the entire world condemning a freedom-loving country that is a bright spot in a tough neighborhood. And the other truth I'll tell you, Kristen, is Americans need to remember it's not that Israel needs America. America needs Israel. Israel is the front line of defense for the Iranian regime and terrorists that want to hurt us and want to hurt our friends. And we need to be honest with the American people about that.
Ambassador Haley, I want to turn to former President Trump's comments recently suggesting that outgoing Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley should be executed for treason. Do you believe those comments in and of themselves mark a threat to the United States national security? Are they disqualifying?
Well, I just think it's irresponsible. I mean, you don't need to say things like that. I think that any man or woman that has served our country deserves the highest respect. My husband is a combat veteran. He is deployed right now. They sacrifice a lot. Their families sacrifice a lot, and we should honor them every chance that we get.
Finally, your message to Republicans in Congress who right now do not have a speaker in the House, who are in a state of paralysis. Do you worry that makes the U.S. look weak on the world stage?
I would remind Republicans, don't chase Democrat chaos with Republican chaos. We need to come together. We need to focus on national security. We need to focus on the fact that, 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, that crime is at unprecedented levels, that our children are lacking in reading and math, that we have an open border, and that China's preparing for war with us. We need to get united. We need to focus on the issues that are facing us, and we need to do that now. There's no time to waste.
All right. Ambassador Nikki Haley, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Go to NikkiHaley.com and join our fight.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.